Well, Vanessa Nicoletta, right here. I can't believe it. The Natural Wine Doc is joining us today, everybody. And I have already heard from some of you how excited you are to hear this information, because who knew that even our sulfite-free wines had some stuff in them that wasn't so supportive for us. And I'm going to steal a little bit of Vanessa's thunder, because she asked me a really good question about, because I was saying, oh, I like to get the small wines. And she says, but they all taste the same. You know how you go and you expect a wine, you buy the wine because you like that taste? Well, if it tastes the same as it did the last bottle or the bottle before that or the bottle before that, that's a sign they've added something in. And that honestly just blew my mind. So so Vanessa, thank you so much for coming. I know you're going to go into that a little bit more and what to look for, but I found that so fascinating. So what drew you to go down this road of drinking wine naturally? I mean, we're all about eating well, but not often do we think about, that wine, right? So tell me more.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly how I got into it. I'm also a culinary nutritionist. So I work with clients and we kind of work on meal planning, whatever their health goals are. And so, they expressed to me, many of them on many occasions, with the question that, do I have to give up my wine that I love in order to still have a healthy, clean lifestyle and keep eating this way and not like go have my results go in reverse, So that was a concern. They wanted to still have the things that they love in life, whether that be wine or even, some dessert sometimes or a piece of chocolate, just like, can I still have things that I really love? Because I don't really want to live a life without a glass of wine on the weekends. And honestly, I feel that same way for my own lifestyle. I still want to enjoy the things in life and still eat a clean life and eat in a clean way that supports my health. So that kind of led me to kind of search out options for them that were the most healthful, that they could enjoy and not derail their progress. And I had found a company that in you know, and then I aligned with after that. But it was through some of my colleagues and even this company that I learned how mass wine is produced. And so I didn't want that for my clients. I didn't want it for myself.
Mhm.
That there are over 70 additives that are allowed in mass produced wine. And, I just didn't want that. I didn't want them having wine with added sugar in it. So that was what got me down this road. And the more I kind of delved into the world of wine, the more I became sort of this obsession that formed. So now it's sort of like this food and wine type of approach to my practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody, I'm going to tell you how to get into, or Vanessa's going to tell you how you can learn more about how to get these wines later. But 70 additives.
Over 70. Yep.
That's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
we all know sugar is like crack to our brain. So we don't want sugar. But what other additives are in the wine what was the one that surprised you the most?
Well, it all starts in the vineyard. So I'll come back to that. But,
Okay.
Conventional productions, just like if we look at factory farm meat or mass big ag, we're looking at pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. And so with mass produced wine, it's the same thing. They're sprayed. And so you may have in your conventionally produced wines glyphosate levels, just like you would see in these weed killers. So that's where it starts. But back at the winery, at the conventional winery, like I said, there are over 70 additives allowed. And I have a short list here. I could name a few. Some of them are, well, sulfites I'll go back to, but there doesn't need to be up to 350 parts per million of sulfites in a bottle of wine. You just don't need that much because sulfites is a naturally occurring thing in the grape, in the skin of the grape. So you don't need to, I mean, you don't need to add all of this for one. There's added sugar so that it appeals to people that have a
My
sweet.
husband.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's a chemical called furanocyanide, which is used to remove trace amounts of metals, potassium metabisulfites to inhibit oxidation, used to preserve the color, copper sulfate citrate used to remove any off smells, polyvinyl I don't even know how to pronounce this, but it's called,
Yes, if it's got vinyl in it, I probably
yeah.
don't want to take that in my body.
No, you don't. You really don't. It's called, well, the PVPP used to clarify, stabilize, and make color adjustments to the wine. Mega purple, which is self-explanatory, you know, so it has to look the same, taste the same, so that you keep buying it, you know.
Right.
Sometimes there are oak chips to kind of give more of an oakiness to them, as opposed to just being in a barrel, you know.
You're drinking sawdust. You might be drinking sawdust.
Might be drinking a little bit of sawdust, soy flour. So if soy is a problem for you, and most soy that is conventionally, you know, grown is heavily sprayed,
Yeah.
and is estrogenic. If that is a concern for you, you know,
Right.
um, defoaming agents and things like that. That's just the short list here. So
Right. And this is just eye-opening information. You know, I mean, it's like, I hear you saying, you know, these are concerns for a lot of people, and you want us to know about them.
yes,
You are right. So if you're eating organic, free range chickens, you might want to look into getting this kind of wine as well. So this is just kind of a to drink to drink with that chicken. So wow, that's kind of scary when we think about, because we're also breathing, you know, I mean, there are certain things we cannot control that go into our bodies, and
exactly.
certain things that we can. And when we know what we're looking for, there you go. So like, what would the side effects, well, I can only imagine what the side effects of, what are they saying? You're finding little pieces of plastic in the ocean, and every fish has a little piece of plastic in it now. Well, no doubt we have that plastic in us too. And some of that comes from what we eat.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So so if I would drink a natural wine, it probably wouldn't be as sweet as what I might be used to. Or, I mean, when you say there may be variations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it all is, it's up to the winemaker how dry or sweet they want to make the wine. So
Okay.
most wines are fermented to dryness. So when we're talking fermentation, it's when the grapes and the skins, if it's a red wine, because if it's a white wine, there's no skins. All right, they separate that
That's
out.
how they do it.
So let's just pretend it's red wine. Okay, so they're sitting in there with the skins, and for how many weeks it's fermenting. Um, it depends on how the winemaker, how dry he or she wants it to be. So if you let it ferment and continue to ferment, the yeast that's in there is going to continue to eat the naturally occurring grape sugar. And so it's up to them when they want to stop it. So if they completely do it until it's like fully, there's no more sugar left, then it's
Mhm.
more of a dry wine. But if that winemaker is trying to make it have a little bit more residual sugar, they're going to stop it at a certain point and not let it go all the way. And that's more, that's okay because it's still the naturally occurring sugar that's in the grapes. That's just a style of wine that winemaker is making. Um, if you want to watch your sugar intake, you would want more dry wine because they're fully fermented and there's less of that residual sugar. If that's what you're looking to do, is control your sugar intake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, And how would I know what to look for? So how would I know if I wanted to go down to my organic market right down the street and I'm looking for wine? What would I keep my mind on? You know, what would I be looking for to find
So,
something natural?
yep, so you would ask the people in the wine shop, or you would find the sign that says the organic section or the natural section. It's usually kind of small.
Mhm.
Hopefully it'll get bigger and bigger as more awareness builds, but yeah. So then what you would do is you can look for, look on the label. It could say USDA organic. It may say made with organically grown grapes.
Mhm.
So that's a little different because that winemaker may not spend the money in getting all the organic certifications. But if it's made with the same kind of standard, if it's made with organically grown grapes, you have a better chance.
Okay.
And if it says, you know, if it says USDA organic. So the label will tell you a lot. There is also the wines that are made in a more biodynamic way, and that's also, you know, great. It'll say certified biodynamic, and there'll be a little symbol on there.
Mhm.
And so that is when the whole with biodynamic, it's the whole ecosystem of the land is taken into account, even the cosmos, even lunar cycles, and so that winemaker is really kind of in tune with his or her vineyard.
Right.
Yep, and then you'll see that they're usually made in a more natural wines are usually made in a little more of a sustainable way. So you can see it's a SIP certified. That's one thing, and salmon safe. If it's a vineyard that has some kind of proximity to you know, a body of water, they
Okay.
don't have chemicals leak, you know, like dripping into the oceans and bodies of water close by.
So you said SIP, SIP
Yes,
certified and
SIP,
salmon
SIP certified,
and salmon safe.
salmon safe. Yep,
Love it.
yep.
I'd never even noticed anything like that. I'm going to have to start paying more attention to those kinds of things.
Yeah, and there's also an app called the Raisin app, and you could set your location, and you will see shops, restaurants that are within your vicinity, and
That
yeah,
where I'd be able to find that kind of wine.
exactly,
And Raisin, Raisin, just
correct.
like okay. And you have also done a lot of research. You've worked with companies on this, and you're working with one company now, I believe in particular. And how would, if we didn't want to do any research on our own and we said, you know what, I trust you, Dr. Vanessa, I just want to come to you, and how do we find you?
Oh, well, you could. Currently, my website is being reimagined, so
Lovely.
I can certainly leave my contact info in the chat. You're welcome to go to my the company that I'm with is called Scout and Cellar,
Mhm.
and you can just go to scoutandcellar.com / my full name, Vanessa Nicoletta. You
Good.
can look at what we have there. You can shoot me an email,
And that's at,
NaturalWineDoc @gmail.com.
perfect. I'm going to be sending out a letter, and I'll make sure this gets in the Facebook post. So everybody will have this in writing, but if you have that, NaturalWineDoc
Yes.
@gmail.com.
Yes, and I have a little ebook here that's kind of outlines everything we're talking about. If anyone is interested in that, I can give you the link for that. It's a little long. I could put it in the chat. I could put it in the Facebook group, whatever you'd like, or just give it to you in an email and you can put it in
Yeah.
your group. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you, yeah, why
Email.
don't you go ahead and just send that to me? That would be great. And I'll make
Yep.
sure it gets
Yep.
posted around. Awesome. Awesome. That's fantastic information. Is there anything else that you feel people would want to know? What do people normally ask you when they say, you know, what kind of wine should I drink? Or what are the common concerns that you hear? Is there anything that you haven't covered that you wanted to
Well,
mention?
yeah, I want to go back to briefly sulfites,
Yes.
because I get that question all the time.
Yeah.
And so people ask me about headaches and sulfites, and I can't really speak to that, but sulfites in general, I think that they get, for one, a bad rap in some ways. You do need a little bit of sulfite in that wine. And there are some natural winemakers, there's like a continuum of how much of a purist a winemaker is, you know. There are some winemakers that do not add any sulfites whatsoever because it's naturally occurring in the skin of the grape already. And so they roll with that. And then there's some other winemakers that add a little bit so that, you know, they last a little bit longer, so that you're not drinking vinegar, you know,
Yeah, I
or
was gonna say, that's what
on a little bit, just the minimal amount, you know. You don't need what the FDA says you can have. You know, you don't need 350 parts per million. Even the European Union uses 250-ish parts per million. You don't really need that much. Maybe 50, always less than 100. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You don't really need that much. So, but people ask me about sulfites all the time. And you know what? You're more apt to have higher sulfites in foods that are packaged because it's a preservative. So if anytime you look in your supermarket and you see dried fruit, dried apricots, you know, even some boxed foods, there's going to be a lot more sulfites in that, a lot more than a bottle of wine. So it's usually when you have headaches, you could look to maybe you're dehydrated, you know, things like that.
Look for other reasons
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. You need a little bit of sulfite. You don't need as much as they allow, but you know, it's not usually from headaches come from that, because you're getting a lot more in packaged foods.
Right. Good point. I'm so glad you brought that up. So sulfites are the sharks of the food world. So they're not all bad, right? So that is good information to know. Because I remember, you know, don't eat it at, people are wanting no sulfites in their wine, or they're not eating salads out in restaurants because of the preservatives. So that is really good information. So it comes naturally occurring. I think a lot of things are. I mean, arsenic is naturally occurring, and it's not something that you want a lot of. So, you know, these things are available. And you mentioned something, because I'm thinking about when you said the pesticides are in the skin, because of course, you know, they don't eat your regular conventionally grown strawberries, because that's really heavily, you know, pesticided.
Right.
But then even thinking, you're right, the grape skins, I'm thinking of the old pictures of people stomping the grapes, and they had the grape skins in there. So it is there, and that adds the color to the red. So if it does have a pesticide in it, it is just having a field day. I mean, it's just sitting in there and becoming part of the soup.
It is.
I had not even considered it to that capacity. So that's very, very eye-opening for me as well. That has been real. So we haven't gotten any questions on the Facebook Live, but I have no doubt that once this goes, you know, once people have a chance to get home from work and look at this, you will be getting some questions in that. So I'll make sure, everybody, that this gets in. You'll get all the information you need. Dr. Vanessa is amazing. She will answer your questions. And we didn't say the doctor is chiropractic, right?
Yeah.
So you're a doctor of chiropractic. So I think that too is an amazing field that a lot of people that I know really do appreciate it. So thank you for the work that you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm so delighted that you could join us. So we can just call it a day, unless you have any final words that you wanted to share with the audience.
Well, I would say this.
Okay.
if you are making the effort to live a healthy lifestyle and watch, watch what you eat and make sure that you're eating the healthiest possible food and sourcing it in a healthful way, you deserve to drink wine that doesn't have any sugars or dyes in it. How's that?
There you go. Bon appetit. Love it. Thank you very, very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and to share your wisdom. I
My pleasure.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.